Hey YouTube, Hester781. So, before we get into today's nightmare, we're actually in the middle of an eclipse up here in Massachusetts. And let me see if I can show you guys through the magical glasses. I tell you, the video does not do it justice. It just feels like eerie outside. Anyway, Yazoo-Kees. I believe these guys were bought out by Husqvarna. So the yellow Cub Cadet zero turn is one of my best friends, and I have a zero turn, as you all know. And now one of my other good friends has got zero turn jealousy. So he's been hunting around for a good deal on a zero turn. And when you see cracked seats, faded plastics, missing stickers, and rust, that usually spells out deal. So let me get you set up and show you what we're dealing with. In all honesty, this really shouldn't need much. Now I've gone and said it. I've gone and jinxed it. His complaint was the belt kept falling off. And right away, we noticed this bracket, it was completely collapsed. I just have it right now bent up with one finger in place, because that needs to be welded. Also, it's seized, so you can move it with a pair of pliers, but I just got to take that stud out and lubricate it. It needs a couple of pulleys, and he said this spindle has already been replaced and it's giving him trouble again. So at first I figured, oh, that's not too bad, but now I started looking. Look at the shape of this one and look at the height. Look at the shape of this one and look at the height. And now look at this one. It's the complete wrong pulley. He had this all taken apart, so this is all just exactly how we got it. But the top bearing completely collapsed. But this pulley is 1/4 of an inch higher than all the other ones. And interestingly enough, the blade is 1/4 of an inch lower than all the other ones. So completely wrong pulley, spindle, and completely wrong pulley. I've already tracked down the correct spindle and pulley combination, so we're going to jump on that. And the next thing I got to find are these. As far as the unit itself, it runs and it drives. The front tires are completely off both beads, so we got tubes coming for those. It's got a small amount of very, very yellow gas in it. It has a mouse house like you wouldn't believe, just everywhere. Battery is pooched. So step one has got to be pull this cover off and evict the critters. All right, I've already blocked off the intake. Wow. Look at that. Between that and the crummy gas, it's a miracle this thing was running. All right, not the worst, not the best. That side's gorgeous. This side was obviously more comfortable for them, apparently. Let's get you in closer. So now, even though this has been sitting, I don't know how long, but for obviously a while, this can happen over winter. And it has happened to me and has happened to many people. If you guys have a riding mower, pull your cover off. It's just 2 seconds to prevent damage in the beginning of the season. Take a quick check. The smell is unbelievable. All right, time to get it out. This looks like an entirely different machine now that all of this stuff is out. Cleaned up good. I can see straight through all the pins. Geez, the corrosion on this side. Mouse piss is incredibly corrosive. So you can see they chewed through the kill wire a little bit. So we'll have to look at that. But I think I'm going to try to get this running and drive it into the shop, because it's actually hot out here now. All right, well, I threw everything back on, and I also threw a different battery I have in, because that one's pooched, and this is Very not fun to jumpstart when you're alone. So the other thing I'm thinking about right now is I happen to have my pressure washer out, plugged in, ready to go. Should we wash it before we know it's decent? All right, fine. Now, some of you may think I'm jumping the gun here, but there is a method to my madness. Sometimes. I have seen at least 100 ants and a bunch of spiders climbing out of this thing since it moved. I would really like them all to leave here and not inside my shop as soon as I shut this thing down. So let's see if we can clean it and debug it. Sorry, this is too good for you guys not to watch. I don't know about you, but I feel much better bringing something like this into the shop. I'm sure there's still a couple creepy crawlies somewhere, but yeah, see? Beat it. Well, let's see if it'll start now that it's wet. Give her some choke. It's honestly not the worst. All right. Oh, I tell you, what a night and day difference driving this up the ramp compared to the Cub Cadet. This is definitely more of a commercial grade machine. Maybe not quite commercial, but definitely more skookum than your homeowner grade. This thing runs great, and it's got terrible fuel in it, so I want to pull that fuel out of it, put some fresh fuel in, and possibly some sea foam, and I think I'm not going to have to do anything with this engine. Shocking, isn't it? He just did an oil change, so fresh oil and filter. I got to do an air filter, that's, I mean, for definite, but I did want to look at this. Yes. See the cracks? Right there. That's the pulse line for the fuel pump. Very common, so I'll change that. Well, it's fresh on my mind. I want to change that breather tube, which I believe is going to be this. If I can find the part number again, I'll write it down. It's just one of those things, you're not looking at it all the time, so I just don't want to forget. Couldn't be simpler. Give it a little twist. You don't want it to break off in the valve cover, because it can. And then just pull straight down. I just cover the hole and give it a little blow. I've put a little WD-40 on the end of this to make it a little smoother going in, but you can just take the dipstick out and put a little engine oil on your finger. Same thing. Such an easy repair because such a headache. Especially one like this that is working. It's just going to start intermittently failing, not giving you the correct amount of fuel pressure. If you're doing this with a pick, be careful. I don't care if you stab yourself, but don't stab the hose. And it just kind of sits in. Hope you guys aren't just staring at my arm. Trying to get better with camera angles. There. I think we're in. Perfect. As far as that fuel, I mean, it is running and running surprisingly well, but there's not that much in there, so I'd like to drain it out. Okay, so that is going to be enough for gravity to take its course. So we'll come back to that after we make a mess. I'm actually glad we're draining it, because now, of course, that it's still, you can see there's a pool of water right at the bottom. And for some reason, this is a low spot. So tank needs a good wiping out anyhow. Well, thought I hit record. I didn't. But all you missed was me taking off the nut and figuring out that whatever this has for a bearing in there definitely has some slop. So what do we have here? Oh, okay. It's just like a shaft. Probably a couple of centered bushings. Yep. All right, that's not the worst. So obviously these were off the bead, and I have tubes, but I'm kind of curious. Should I just try cleaning up the rim and seeing if they'll seat again? Or I hate wrestling. This one's not even off the bead. Let me think about it. And through the magic of YouTube, well, two tubes. Had the local tire shop throw them in for me. My shoulder is just, I don't know if any of you guys ever tore a rotator cuff. How long until everything goes back to normal? Please tell me. Anyway, it's going to throw some grease in, and the one on this side, which is right here, will not take any grease. She's completely plugged. So let's see if we can get that cleaned out. You know, I actually completely forgot I had a stash of grease fittings in the cabinet. So now, she's actually taking some grease. Well, that wraps up the front end. Now let's jump on to finishing the fuel system. Got all the old crummy gas drained out. And for those of you wondering, I just used the Sten's True Blue fuel line. It's actually got a nice metal shut off. And it couldn't be simpler. Routes straight through, up and in. I'm just kind of getting the junk that was in the carburetor out. And you can't actually pull the shut-off solenoid without pulling the carb. So I just sort of loosened it up and I got it dripping out. I mean, it was running great with the shitty fuel, but I'm just trying to get what was in there out as best I can and actually start fresh. And I got the tank all wiped out. I'm curious. Let's get some fuel in it and see if she runs. All right, we got fresh fuel in it. I've jumped the seat safety. It's going to take a little while to get some fuel up to the bowl, but let's give her a rock. Yeah, I gotta say, this thing sounds great. It runs great. It filter filled up, no problem. I guess we put it off long enough. Gotta move on to the spindle. So anyway, here's the new correct spindle. I'll put the part number right here. And luckily it's the outer one. This is sort of, you know, easy because I can have it hanging off the bench and eat the film. So yeah, get rid of the wrong pulley. Couldn't be easier, because if these bolts break, nobody cares. And of course they're coming out. But if I wanted to save it, there'd be no chance, right? Just put a hand underneath to catch the last one. And there's our prize. You can see that top bearing is completely pooched. Save this. So we need to transfer that. And oh yeah, there you go. All right, prep for the new one. All right, some may call it unnecessary, but I'm gonna wire brush the top here.
As well as the bottom.
The reason I do that is I just have a thing about mating surfaces being clean, whether it's, you know, rims and tires or even something as simple as a spindle. If anything is in between, you know, you're creating an opportunity for separation. Let me get you readjusted here. Can you still see? Yeah, you can see. Feed her up from the bottom. There's no direction, by the way, for that spacer, for that big rusty ring. Just pick a hole and stick it in. And I'm not using the big boy to tighten these down. I got the little 3/8. The big boy's a little too ambitious. I can quickly snap these off in the new housing without blinking an eye. And yeah, we're good. Sock it down. Perfect. We're still waiting for the new pulley though. All right, so I don't know what we're in store for here as far as the tensioner goes, but won't know till we start digging in, right? Pull this spring off. I've already loosened the, it's a 3/4 up top and bottom, but you do have to put a wrench on the underside. So this side is just a big bolt and washer with a washer on top. Well, it looks simple enough. It looks like this middle piece is supposed to be free floating in there, and it's not. So I'm gonna have to drive that out, and now you can get a better look at the brake there. It's all the way around and through. And that bearing's garbage. So try to get a new one of those, but let's get this in the vise. So my thought process here is I'm going to weld this up first because I'm gonna have to hammer on this to get this thing out, and I don't want to deform this any more than it is or risk, you know, snapping it off the rest of the way. And you know, right now I'm lucky it's holding itself where I need it. So let me just slap a bead on that and turn you back on in a second. And there's one side done. I even touched up the back. It was not welded all the way around, so I wonder if that was part of the issue. I've sprayed some penetrant in it, that's why it's smoking. I have to pound the back side out before I can weld that. So let's see if she'll move. All right, just for good measure. Give it a little bit more heat. All right, I got it supported by a socket that's bigger, so let's see. Possibly moved a bit. Yeah, Slowly making progress. This is just a giant springboard. On second thought, the vise works pretty good. And there we go. Geez, you know, looking under here, why didn't they put any weld? It just, I don't know. I feel like you could use all the strength you can get. I mean, obviously you got to keep it below that line, but that's what grinders are for, right? See, I like that so much better. Now, I've said before, I'm not a welder, so keep your comments to yourself. But, sweet. I just got to take a little bit off just to, you know, make it level and clean it up a bit. But yeah, we're ready to go. And give that a good clean on the wire wheel. She's going to be good to go. Would have helped if they put like a grease bearing, grease nipple or something. Now, if we have done this right, we should be able to bolt this in. Squeeze that nut all the way down. And this should still spin freely. Place your bets. Huh? Look at that. Throw this back on for now. I'm going to try to get one of those pulleys before this is done, but it's a nice easy one to swap out. If not, so is this one. And then we just hook up. I like this tensioner system. You got this big spring on there, and this is basically your release arm. You pivot it there, and that's what's holding the, you know, tension, so you can undo it and do it real quick. And the final piece of the puzzle. Now all the pulleys are actually sitting level for once. And coming here, by the way, a rickshaw apparently was the air filter. It has been days for such a small yet very important part of this build. So let's take this thing out for a drive. Coming up Heartbreak Hill. She's doing good. Oh, she runs great. She drives great. She feels great. I tell you, what a difference. Just in the feeling alone. Like, this is solid, you know, 1-inch bar stock. Like, you know you're engaged. It's hard to, like, describe what I'm talking about. But, like, the Cub Cadet, it's like a stamped piece of C channel, and you can literally flex the arms back and forth. You know, this is a much more rugged machine. Engine felt good, sounded good, tons of power. You saw coming up the hill there. Last thing to check out is the deck, and unfortunately, it's raining. And my buddy's coming by tomorrow to help pick it up and put the deck on. So we'll see you then. And here's my buddy testing out his nice new to him zero turn for the first time. You can't tell right now, but his smile is like good 3 miles wide. This is just absolutely perfect for him. So that's gonna wrap this one up, guys. Finally got the new belt on her. Mows good, feels good. And doesn't she bag? I want to thank you all again for liking, watching, commenting, subscribing. And we'll catch you on the next one. Even got a new seat cover.